Oregon residents are outraged due to the potential elimination of Foxboro Golf Course in the Autumn Ridge neighborhood. Tonight's meeting at the public library, led by developer Glenn Hoffer, followed up on a previous meeting we were at in January, which discussed the future plans of the property. Attendees claim that Hoffer did not notify all residents of tonight's meeting, where he proposed two development options for the property. One option includes a 10-hole golf course, while the other eliminates the course entirely.
We are going to be very vocal about this, and we're not going to allow this developer to lie and cheat his way into destroying the only open public golf course we have in Oregon.
Our crews were there, and Hoffer asked WMTV not to film inside the meeting room and declined to comment.